Okay, hopefully this is working. I'm trying to record a Zoom here so you can see me and I can talk and present my PowerPoint. So, Dr. Anderson, I will do my best to hopefully this will work and we'll see. I'm at work, so I close my door, but if I get a call, I'll just pause during the middle of it. So, let me go back here. One too far. Okay, so for my final project, what I loved about this class is that I could use so much stuff at work that is really happening in real time and use this class and what I'm learning to put into perspective. And so for this final project, this came up at the last few weeks. And so we were going to do an A3 project on it, me and some of the team members here at work. And so I thought, oh, I'm gonna just focus on this. So hopefully this will work for you. But vitamin K, for all the years I've been here, 13 years, newborn medications are stocked in the room. There's a locked cabinet, baby's delivered, we give the newborn medications and move along. There have been a few things that have happened over the last year that staff are saying, ooh, pause, should we be doing this way? So that's what I want to go through and take some of the tools we've learned in this class and put it into this presentation and hopefully next week go forward with this project. So just kind of the scope, and I know this is going to be kind of all over the place, but I'll bring it back together. But since 1961, pediatricians have recommended vitamin K be given in newborns. It's a single shot, it's 1 milligram. So that way we can avoid the vitamin K deficiency bleeding that newborns can get that inhibits them from being able to clot. And there's a lot of studies about it. One, I believe, was in Tennessee. There was several correlations of newborn issues and bleeding and deaths. They all drove it back to none of them had received vitamin K. There was a period of time where mothers and parents were like, oh, we don't need this. We can get vitamin K other ways. So that has been disproven. It's safe. But however, some parents still come in and say, oh, I don't want that. And so we need to educate them and then respect whatever it is they choose for their newborn. So those kind of will go hand in hand as I get further along. National patient safety goals. If we switch gears, just going down a medication route, that we want to be accurate and identify our right patient, our right medication, all of our 5 rights when we're giving anything. And that is one of their patient safety goals. So when this project was brought up or this issue, we're not really meeting that when we start looking into it. Currently, how we're operating is, like I said, the newborn medications, Ilotyson, the eye ointment for the baby, I'm not really focusing on, but both of them are stocked in the room, in the cabinet. They're easily accessible. We give them right at birth. It used to be the thought that, as soon as you can, you give those things. And then we are going back and documenting it later once the baby's admitted and once we can access the MAR. We are documenting it on there a late documentation and saying we've always had the option on the MAR, the electronic MAR, to give as given in delivery room. So that's what they document. And so then we don't, from a medication safety aspect, we're not technically falling out of our scanning rates because it's kind of been the unspoken rule that newborn medications can be given without the scanning because they're not admitted in the computer yet. They were just born. So newborns, before they're admitted, obviously don't have an ID band. So that's an issue. There's nothing to scan. Even if we did, scan the medication, which has a barcode scanner, we still don't have a newborn to scan to match those up and pair them. The other thing is there's not orders in yet. And those all things take time, especially with electronic charting. So what has brought this project to light is some near misses and actual errors. There are 2 situations in the last year where the babies ended up going to NICU. So they were born, they were admitted, we gave them all the stuff, and then they got transferred to NICU. Well, as I just said, the nurses had not documented that those medications were given. And so when they were in NICU goes to look and, oh, they weren't given, we need to give this. So they were gotten 2 doses. That in the research and all of that, it's not dangerous, but it's not right. And so those have been documented that they were mistakes. And ultimately, it wasn't the nurse that gave it the second time mistake. It was ours for not documenting it correctly. And so this was the start of looking at this. Most recently, our near miss was the nursery nurse that came in. She went to go pull the vitamin K out and had checked her vial, and it said 10 milligrams instead of 1. And so we realized that pharmacy tech had brought up and stocked the wrong med to all of the rooms. And so if it weren't for that nurse checking correctly and self-reporting, we would have made some mistakes. We were able to find every vial that was brought up. That was the first one pulled out, and she caught it. So gold star to her, but at the same time, we're not doing them any favors by keeping this process that we've always done going. So parent refusal. Again, it's not ideal. We don't want that. We want to, if a parent doesn't want the vitamin K, most oftenly it's other immunizations, but vitamin K, sometimes they come up and they don't know enough. And so we don't obviously want to give that medication to the baby at birth and the parent's not thinking about what we're doing. They've got their newborn on them and they're saying, oh, welcome, and we're giving the injection. So we've had an infant that got the injection and the parents were like, oh, wait, I didn't want that. But then once the pediatrician came and talked to them and educated them, it was okay, but it wasn't okay in the fact that we did it without potentially a consent. So there are several things that are just red flags, and the nurses are coming, nurses are coming and they're saying, oh, this is a problem. The nurse who caught the 10 milligrams said, what can I do to help? This process isn't working. And so that's really good. And that's one of the beauties of being a Magnet hospital is I say, great, what ideas do you have? And let's do them. And we can all work together to do those things. The nursery coordinator, she wasn't involved in any of those, but heard enough talk that she was like, I'll help too. And so we are getting an interdisciplinary team together, and we're going to definitely start this process of research, collaboration, getting our history, and trying to problem solve. Here's the SWOT, basically of the things I just said that we know right now. A strength is it's right there, readily available. It streamlines. They're given it really timely. But all those weaknesses I just talked about is that infant's not even in the computer, so we don't have an ID to scan. We're documenting late, which isn't even appropriate. And there's no way to know if the nurses are checking those side rights and making sure that there's a consent. Our opportunities are just, we have the technology here available. We have it. It's here at our fingertips. We have an Omnicell already in place. We have a medication scanning in every single room. So we need to use those things. We can use our performance management board to get the education out. And then ultimately our opportunities to decrease med errors and not have any at all, or any even near misses. Redistribution and the change in itself sometimes can be threatening to staff who don't know what to do, or it's a big change, and that's okay. And obviously it will decrease in medication timeliness. We won't be given right at birth, but we're having our pediatric hospitalists approve that what our timeline is to give it in. There is studies that say after the first breastfeed, which can be an hour, 90 minutes. And there's a Canadian study that says it can be up to 6 hours after birth. So we got to decide with our practice council and our physician oversight committees what we want to go with and how we're going to move forward. And so that's the good part of having all those team members. So the process will be that the proposal is we're going to admit the infant. The charge nurse attends every delivery typically. If she's able to, she gets in there at some point, and she's just that extra hand to get anything that's needed. Every birth can be different and there can be unexpected things. So Her role will be to complete the infant admission immediately, get that baby into the computer, give a buzz to either our secretary or a PCT to go ahead and get those bands printed so we can get an ID band. And she'll at that same time place a newborn order set that we're working on, having it just be all the newborn medications. And sometimes if a mom is negative, we need that cord blood to go to see what baby's blood type is. So we're just adding, I mean, it's becoming an opportunity for other things that we kind of need. So just one time in the computer, add the baby, get the band printed, and add that order set. And so then it's in and it's already processing before the nursery nurses, you know, she's drying and stimulating and taking care of her baby. So by the time everything's stable, all those should be ready for her. And so then she will go retrieve the medication. Perfect world, we want it stocked in the Omnicell because that's one more layer of that medication being correct. If it's only 1 milligram per mil vials, the pharmacy tech goes to stock the Omnicell. They have to scan those meds, and if it's 10, it's going to like at least warn her. So that's one more layer of getting the right medication to the bedside. And then once she gets all of that, she'll have the infant band, all the right medication. Then she'll be able to go through that standard safe process like we do every other medication, where we scan the infant, scan the medication, we compare it to the computer and make sure we are matching up all those things so that way we're being safe. Using Lippitt's phases of change, again, same thing I kind of said, we've identified our problem, our motivation, that those nurses are coming and speaking out. Our objectives are to have a safe, standard way to administer meds, just like we do everywhere else, involving lots of different roles to make sure everyone's on the same page and everyone knows and can answer to that when we go forward, and then how to maintain that change. So following that framework kind of goes with our magnet organization, that patient focused care, and all of the things around it. Our mission is improving the health of our community to provide compassionate, high quality care, and we can do that through this change and this change process. And that's our end goal, is doing this is going to be improving the health, getting the baby the things they need and making sure it's the right thing that they need. So just doing a little work breakdown, the manager will lead it, defining the people that we need, gathering team members, key players, and then doing that education to staff. Again, we use Lean here and the management system, and so that is probably how I'll put it on the board, and that's how we sustain as well, because we're huddling there every shift, every day. Our quality coordinator has already been doing some of the history, the near misses and mistakes that have been documented over the last year. We might go further if we need to. And she's working with the pediatric hospitalist, already setting up a conversation to make sure what they're comfortable with on the order set and what the timeliness it has to be given in. Bedside nurses, they are the key people that are going to be doing the change. They're going to talk daily at shift huddle. They'll say, hey, this process, let's try it this way, or let's do this, or, offer any ideas that they might have and reasons why this change needs to be happening. Pharmacy has to be involved. They've got to stock the meds. They've got to make room in the Omnicell and educate their staff as well. So there's a lot of breakdowns there. On a timeline, it's July already, and I would hope by August that we can have these meetings, get the team together, get something set and to go to practice council, send a SUOC request, which is our oversight committee for the order set and making sure that's all correct in there so we can get the med efficiently. And then obviously moving it to the Omnicell. By September, we'll have everyone educated. We'll talk about it at huddles, and we can go live and say, ready, set, go, here's our change, and hopefully we're good to go then. And so then October, we are going to obviously be talking daily at the huddle, but run some weekly reports on. We have a scanning rate built. We just need to add those medications to it. And so we can run a report in our Epic system that tells us what the scanning rate is of those specific medications. I thought, let's start with 90%. I know emergencies happen. Charge nurses don't always get into the deliveries that time if there's multiple happening at once, but we can then grow from there and work on getting some backup and what our process is there to make sure those get done. Once we meet the benchmark, we can do monthly checks for 3 months, and typically having a good quarter of meeting your benchmark is the start of your sustainability. My stakeholder analysis, you know, the stakeholders occupying the higher side of the power and the higher interest quadrant, those are the ones we need to manage closely, make sure they're fully engaged, make every effort to satisfy them. So that includes our patients, our parents, making sure, you know, they've agreed to it, they consent, and if not, that we're educating them, and then that the charge nurses and bedside staff are doing some of these new changes. Higher power, lower interest. Those are, you know, put enough work to keep them satisfied, but not too much, I guess, to, you know, annoy them. And so, you know, we're doing it. Our hospitalists will be, or our, you know, my director and the VPs or the patient care, they will support this. They will be satisfied with us doing that, but they're probably not going to like have as big of a hand in it as the actual staff doing it. Stakeholders in the lower power, higher interest, they generally are helpful. I actually sit on our medication safety committee for the organization, and they're going to have very high interest in our project in doing this, and will want to support us in whatever. So they'll want to be kept informed. And then finally, the lower power, lower interest quadrant require, you know, very minimal effort on those people's part. And so again, pediatricians were just asking for the timeline, the evidence, take it to their meetings, but they're not going to be really doing it or having any, they're not going to mind how we do it as long as it gets done. And then if those patients need them to come educate, they'll do that. Same with pharmacy staff. They're fine no matter what. They are here to support us in our goals. Again, kind of what I talked about with Magnet. We want that patient to be the center of our focus. The Magnet one had a lot more around it, but for a systems process thinking, you know, our care team, everyone that's involved, all healthcare professionals, even family members. I don't know what that was. I'm good. The organization. Is there other people you need to consider in the organization that don't stock vitamin K or that would need to know our process? Do they give it at the clinic, you know, when they go home? You know, other departments, do they give it? The NICU and the babies transfer down there. Our environment, the regulatory process. Our insurers, our practice council, they all want to know, and we're doing evidence-based, what we need to be doing to meet those needs, CMS and Joint Commission, all of those. And already talked about like leadership plenty, that they're going to be on the page and be supportive to the changes. So the quality improvement model, like I said, I'm used to doing the lean. I've taken all the LMS classes. I have done many, many A3s, and that's my thinking about it. But when I've done the analysis and synthesis of other methods, I found, so I just put a PDSA together for this because it's very similar. When you break it all down, I mean, there are some different key pieces, but it is very similar. So for the purpose of this project, I just thought I'll put it into this, and then I will morph it into our A3. But I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, but again, we have our plan, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and the study. Once I get it on the board, I'm going to say, what are the barriers? What is the issue? And so we can add those into it. And then our weekly chart audits, scanning rates, things that we do in real time to sustain that change will be our action. So closing the project, board huddles every shift. Our goal is to meet that 90% scanning rate. Staff are really going to be the ones doing it. They're responsible. They need to let us know the opportunities, what's going well, what's not. And then sustainability, if it works and it's good and everybody's happy and we find a path that will be good and everyone can agree with and stay and we feel like we're doing what's right, will totally satisfy the Joint Commission at our next visit. I also think that it could potentially be a magnet write-up. Magnet, our focus is really on nursing, really on, nursing being their hands, deep in the trenches saying, this isn't working and it's not the safest. Like, just like if we say as leadership, we really need to do this, they're going to want to know why. They want to know what's the purpose behind it. I've always been that person. I think most nurses are. And so I think this could potentially be a write-up that the nurses came and said, whoa, this isn't right. Let's do this change. And so potentially you can write that up as one of our magnet document. This is an example of something that we weren't doing and now we are. So I think that they would be super proud of that. So yeah, finally, a couple of resources. And the best part about this project, and for me especially, because I don't have to go beg for money and resources, that we don't need any funds or equipment. We have an Omnicell in place. We have Epic in place that we can make these order sets. So we don't, making a little space for a couple of drawers in the Omnicell is going to be it. And pharmacy doesn't think that'll be any issue. So that's the beauty of it. We don't need any of those extra things. And so we can hopefully maybe even quicker than the timeline presented get this project going. So finally, I just want to say this class has been super enjoyable. It's the first time I feel like everything that I've learned, I can literally put into my everyday work. And so I really, really enjoyed it. And I appreciate your support. And I think finally getting into our path and our branches of what we are going to school for is exciting. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your summer.